Good afternoon, this is Trish Safner in the gardens at Thompsonville Community Garden. This afternoon I'm going to be talking about planting a fall garden. This is my favorite topic of all, so I could talk for days, but I'm going to keep it short and bring it about in just raised beds. The reason why I enjoy this is because everything gets a lot easier at this time of the year if you're planting a fall garden. The season gets more comfortable to work in, the days start to get shorter and cooler. And so that affects your labor in the garden in that you don't have to work as hard, and it also affects the pest cycle. The pest cycle starts to wane downward and the pests start thinking about getting ready for the winter. And as the weather starts getting cooler, the rains start getting more abundant, you have to water less, and there's less weed pressure. So these are all great things to think about, as well as the fact that you're going to be eating great food well into the holidays. So for the fact that there's less labor, less pests, longer cycle for the growing, the most important thing is that the vegetables are going to taste better. There are many, many vegetables that will taste better when they've been grown in cooler temperatures. And that's what planting the fall garden is all about. So we start with the spring planted vegetables. Right now they're looking kind of sad and spent. They're probably bolting, which means it's the end of their plant cycle. They are now thinking of recycling themselves and reproducing themselves so that they'll come back next year if they're able to set seed. So you may see plants that are very tall, not very pretty looking, and we're going to go in the garden in a little bit and show you what those look like. So if you have them in your garden, you know it's time to take them out. So if it's time to take them out, what are you going to put in their place? Well, you're going to put in more plants, young plants and even seeds that will take a little bit longer to come to maturity, but as I said earlier, they're going to taste better. So what kind of plants will we be doing? We'll be doing all kinds of greens, Asian greens, arugula, lettuce, spinach. We'll be doing the brassicas all over again, so cabbages and cauliflowers and broccoli and kale. We'll be doing carrots, we'll be doing spinach, we'll be doing onions, we'll be doing beets. You name it, we can do it. As long as it's not the summer veggies that love the warm weather, we'll be planting it again. So how do you do this? There is a schedule to follow, and you can find that in the shed in the Thompsonville Community Garden if you're a garden member there. If not, you can research this online. There are many resources. Some of my favorites are Johnny's Select Seeds, Mother Earth News magazine. They'll help you plan the garden and they'll help teach you where to go find the resources to get the supplies. Some of the hardest things in this culture are to find the supplies. The reason for that is the garden centers and nurseries are thinking ahead to wintertime, and so they're not as well stocked with those spring plants that you got months ago. So you might have to take some time now to do some research to find the seeds and to find the transplant, or you may have to grow your own. So now it's July, it's time to do the research. You have a couple weeks before you're going to get those in the garden. Take the time now, but I assure you, you're going to have tasty plants and you're going to enjoy the gardening experience in the cooler temperatures. So how do we start this whole process? You remove the spent vegetables from the garden. When you do that, you're removing nutrients from the soil, and you're also leaving a hole now for weed seeds to germinate. So to take care of those two problems, what you're going to be doing is cleaning up that area around the spent plants. You are going to cut the plant at the soil level. Thereby you're removing the stem, you're removing the spent leaves, but you're leaving the roots there to break down and decompose and further feed the soil and add to the soil fertility. And then after removing it, you're going to maybe think about putting in a little bit more compost to add a little bit more fertility. After that, you need to think about mulch. Some of my favorite mulches are shredded newspaper, making sure that it's just the black and white, not the colored or the shiny part of the newspaper. Chopped leaves, chopped clean hay or grass clippings. And what you can do is after you remove that plant, you're going to cover up the hole with those clean mulches. What those will do is they'll cover up the spot, not allowing any weeds to germinate. And they'll also be holding moisture in place, so when your new plant goes in there, it's ready to go. And speaking of moisture, those plants are going to need a lot of moisture when they go in the soil. Right now, we're in July, we're heading into August. The soil tends to be a little bit tired now because it's been producing plants for months. And if you haven't been watering on a regular basis, you might have a problem in that soil. It might be too dry. So in order to find out, the best thing is to just stick your finger in the soil and pull it out. And if the tip of your finger is completely dry, you know your soil is dry and you need to start watering more often. How do you water? You water at the soil level because that's where the plants take the nutrients. They don't take them from the leaves and from the stem. They take it from the soil. So make sure you're watering at the soil level. So after you've removed your spent plants and put in the mulch, add extra water to make sure that soil is really full of moisture when you go to put those plants in. So now we're going to go to the garden, and I'm going to show you one of the beds that has plants that have been producing for the past several months. Our gardener has been enjoying greens and cauliflower and radishes, and those plants now are tired. They've done their job. It's time for them to take a break. So we're going to go to the garden bed now so I can show you what to do next. Okay, so we are here at one of my favorite beds in the community garden in Thompsonville, and I'm here to demonstrate how to plan and plant for the fall garden. So this bed is doing really well. We've got Collins compost in here. We've had no problems with pests or disease up until now. And as you can see, the trellising has done a great job of keeping everything healthy. This is a cucumber plant. She's been getting cucumbers several times a week, and it's elevated. So there's a lot of air circulation moving around here that minimizes pests and disease. It's also a lot easier to harvest. You can see that she's got cucumbers growing. They're easily accessible for harvesting. She's got plenty of room for more growth to go up. It's not sprawling across the soil, which would add to soil problems. Also, the tomato is nicely trellised as well. It's got the circulation for the air to move around so that pests and disease aren't settling on it. But today I want to talk about how you would get the garden ready for the fall garden. So you can see here she has harvested her cabbage, and it's leaving a large area that would probably just look unsightly for a while, but we can add a lot of food in this area. So what she would do is she would remove this by taking a knife and cutting it at the soil level. That way she's got a lot of room around the area to plant seeds or some seedlings. So at this point she would cut off the stalk and the stem and put down some clean mulch, either some chopped leaves or some chopped hay or some clean grass clippings. Put it in the area to kind of hold the soil in place so that it's not lost in the coming weeks. And then she can get ready to come in and put seeds in here. She could put carrots in here. She could put beets in here. She could put lots of greens in here. She could spinach in here. She could even do another round of radishes in here if she wanted. And it would fill up the space. It would minimize the weeding. Here is an example of the radishes. So the radishes are a plant that wants to go to flower at the end of the growing season. And here it is, it's in flower. And if she were to leave this in place, pods would form on these tiny little stems, and they would be next year's radish seeds. But oftentimes radish seeds aren't as reliable to get a crop next year, so I generally recommend that you remove them. So this is a bolted plant. You'll see radishes look like this, Asian greens will look like this, even your lettuce will look like this. It gets very tall, the leaves become large and unsightly, and the vegetable doesn't taste good. So it's taking up a lot of room, and it's also taking fertility out of her garden by leaving it here. So we're going to remove this, and then she has room to plant as many seeds or seedlings as she can. Here again is the lettuce. It gets very tall. It doesn't taste as good. It doesn't produce as much. And so it's taking up room and fertility in a place where she could plant other things. So this is an example of what the bed would look like when you would want to get it ready. So what do you do at this time? You kind of walk around the bed. You think about what you want to eat. Oh, when would you want to eat it? Maybe during the holidays. So think a little bit further into fall and think about what you want to put on your Thanksgiving table. Do you want to put turnips on the table? Do you want to put all kinds of greens? Do you want to put broccoli? Do you want to put cauliflower? Do you want to put spinach? It's all possible in the garden right now. It all follows a schedule, and the schedule is available in the Thompsonville Community Garden. And you can, as I said earlier, check out resources that are online in magazines for planting a fall garden. So here we are, ready to think about fall already, and it's only July. So next time we'll see you in the garden. We'll be talking about pests, we'll be talking about disease and problems, but I have to tell you, it might be a really short talk because we don't have any right now because the garden soil is so healthy and everybody is following organic practices, so it might be a really short talk. See you in the garden.